Oh, almost ready. Hello, and welcome to our Expansion Principle Practitioner interview series. I'm Dr. Alexis, and we have Melissa Fernandez with us today. Hi, Melissa. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. So, Melissa, you have gone through EP levels one, two, and three, and you are currently, we're going to be beginning our teacher training here soon. So, you'll be our student teacher for this round. So, people will have myself and also you to help them learn. And I'm really excited for that experience. We've done teacher training before, but we haven't had a student teacher involved in our in the cohort. So that'll be a really fun thing and an addition and help us have another perspective and all of that. So I think Melissa, you did EP training, I believe in was it in the fall of 2020 or was it in 2021?
2021. Hmm.
Amazing. So we'll talk a little bit. I have a few questions for you. Talk about your experience and what it was like so that people can connect with that. And right now we are in open enrollment for EP training and we open enrollment once a year. The program itself is now 12 months long, which is super fun. The first half is the modules and the attunements and learning how to interact with the energy and send the energy and just the preliminaries. And then the second phase of training will be for them to present case studies and that sort of thing. So more of an in-depth kind of practice, which will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's funny how things just evolve, and that's very much what EP's been like. So we actually just celebrated this week, we celebrated 7 years of offering the training. So we're moving into our eighth year, which is just phenomenal to have been around this long and had it, evolve in this way. And I always think back and how the very first group, the very first season of EP, I'd never fully attuned anyone. I'd never run the whole thing. I didn't even know what, and it's astonishing to me that I was able to do that. And what's really funny is that I was only connecting with Simon, who's the being for everyone listening. He's the being that I work with and channel with, and that we bring the expansion principle forward with. So I was only communicating with him internally. So
Mhm.
it's not even like now where I'm able to trans channel and ask questions. Like all this was happening inside. So it's really wild how we've come from that to now this 7 years later of how it's evolved. So now we have a robust 12-month program and we have student teachers and all the things.
Yeah, it really truly is. And even for myself, just to witness the growth and expansion from 2021 until now
Mhm.
and see the changes and movements within you and how it impacts the practitioners. I mean, we have a really lovely community aspect as well that, of course, me being a 4/6 is very important to me to have that connection. So
Yeah.
it's amazing where EP has come, and I'm really honored to be part of it.
Oh, and we're honored to have you be part of it. I love it so much. Yeah, it's been really wonderful working with you and watching your growth and watching your expansion. And it's incredible to see. I usually get to see it first. I've noticed that it takes people a little bit longer to see the changes in their own life, but it's really fun to see those energetic shifts with a person and see where they're at and how they grow and how they evolve. And really, at the end of the day, you're becoming more of yourself, which is a lot of fun.
It's a journey.
Oh, it sure is because what happens when you become more of yourself, you got to line everything up.
That's the fun part.
Oh, it's definitely a word for it. Fun is a word for it. I know for me that's probably a podcast interview for the future for you and I, like that alignment of when you become more of yourself, how you have to align everything in your life up.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to have that conversation because it's really tricky to navigate, and I don't know if
Hmm.
there's, I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot of people who do discuss that aspect of it. And it's really
Yeah.
critical for those people walking through it and to have support systems in place and just to have an awareness of what it is going to be like can be really helpful as you walk into those situations and moments where it does require you to be super aware and actively choosing what is in
Yeah.
your correctness, because so much of the things around you will tell you no, no, no,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
you know what's correct.
And how to remember that and tune into that, especially when we're getting that feedback from outside of us, like, no, that's not for you. It's like, but I'm certain. And how to tune into that certainty.
Yeah, I've got great experience now
Mhm.
doing these bits, so
Yeah, me
still
too.
learning. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so to start with our the things we want to talk about for sharing and for people who are maybe observing our launch and are curious about EP. My first question is, what first drew you to the expansion principle?
Oh, I love this question because it requires me to go back to 2021 and remember the first time I met you. And it
Mhm.
was through Nicole Joy. And she brought you on to do a Bardo session in her mastermind group, which I was a part of.
Oh, yeah.
I was in, I believe, May of 2021.
Okay.
And so that was the first connection point. And I was just, I mean, I love that stuff. I loved it. It was so great. And so I was following you on Instagram, and towards the um, later parts of the year, I think it was like, it was August, I was surprised by something in my personal life. And I remember you had posted, I think you were doing card pulls on Instagram, or
Mhm.
you were asking questions of like, hey, would you like an energy transmission type of stuff? And
Yeah.
I said yes. And I asked a specific question. And there was no way you didn't know, we weren't working together at that time
Oh,
personally. There was no way you could have known what was happening in my life. But the response that was given to the question, you knew what was happening, and it activated something within me. And for everyone listening, I had a surprise pregnancy, and it was our third kid. And
yeah.
it was not planned. And I was very shocked. I was in a turmoil because I wasn't, it was shocking, right? To
Yeah.
you're pregnant. And I had all sorts of feelings, but I was reassured. I felt really, really reassured and comfortable. And the message, I even have it somewhere in my phone still. I screenshotted it because it
Oh,
was
I love that.
really, and that's when I felt a resonance. That was the first resonance that I felt. And so then I think shortly after you were launching EP
Mhm.
trainings in September. And that's when it was like, oh, I felt a match. Like I knew that that was a yes for me. And then that led me into the process of deciding and then actually saying yes, to step into it, which in my experience, it was difficult. And
Mhm.
when I look back on that, what it really was about was saying yes to the identity of what was going to be becoming and walking through that door. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is.
That's it, right? That's it. The identity. And I say this to people all the time, but that's the piece. Like, this is so transformational. And the way that, so receiving EP transmissions is amazing. And I highly recommend everyone who's watching this or curious about it, like, connect with us and we'll connect you with a practitioner because receiving this healing, even as a layperson, even if you don't become a practitioner, is amazing and really moves the needle for you. And it's tremendous. But there's something unique that's happening when you're becoming attuned to the energy. And I feel like there is this awareness that you step into a new identity, that you're becoming more of who you are. And a lot of times, your system is aware of that
Mm.
trajectory, and it feels like death. And our bodies and our minds and our personality will do anything to prevent death. And so, if this becoming of this new identity is death of the old self, we can get a little confused with should I step forward or should I not? So, that part around like you tuning into the identity, it's like that's so spot on. Thanks for sharing that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And it was, and so finally I did say yes, and I joined, and it was very life changing, and it was really beautiful to do that program while I was pregnant with my third. It's very lovely.
Yeah. Will you speak to that a little bit? Because I think sometimes people would think, any other person would say, wait, I'm pregnant. This is not the correct time to do this. I shouldn't do this. And what's interesting for you is like it was really beneficial for the pregnancy and for your child.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a really good question because I never Yeah, I mean that was something I was trepidatious about. I remember asking you, I think twice, what's the impact going to be like on the baby, since I am pregnant. And that was more, I don't think that was like a primary fear. It was more the identity piece probably was still coming forward, but it
Yeah.
made my pregnancy go so smooth. I was relaxed. I got to enjoy my pregnancies because my previous two, I did not enjoy pregnancy. I really had a difficult time. And I also had a very smooth, beautiful delivery. I had another successful VBAC, and the timing of it all was perfect. Everything was just so easy and smooth. And I do attribute a lot of that to being attuned and working with EP and using it during my labor and birth
Yeah.
and my postpartum actively pretty much every day.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I
That's
forgot about
amazing. I love that. And if I remember correctly, I think because we have an alumni support group. So once people are complete with their active training, move into the alumni practitioner support. And so we're most active in a Voxer chat because I'm old school and still have Voxer. But I feel like, did we offer you support through there too during
that.
that time? Yes.
Yeah, when I went into labor, I let everybody know that I was going into labor and I'd love some EP for it. And everyone did, and it was beautiful and it was great.
Oh, I love that. That's one of the things I love about the way that we have the program structured is that you keep going. It's not just a one-time thing. So the experience of being an EP practitioner never leaves you, whether or not you're involved in the alumni and the practitioner support. But it's just neat how this isn't, a lot of times people will take a course and it's for a moment and the investment is for that period of time. But this is learning that keeps going on and on and on, and even the support piece of it where we meet once a month with the alumni and also where you become friends and connected, and when you need support there's a private space to ask for that support.
Yeah, that is highly, highly valuable. And my four line loves it, so
Yeah.
heavily involved.
I love that for you. Well, thank you. That's, yeah, so many things that we connected with. So that's a great segue to how has EP impacted your own personal healing and growth?
hmm I really came into EP with the thought process of healing a lot of my own mother wounds that I had and really
Mm,
dissecting that, diving in deep, because I felt I was looping and I had tried everything, all the things, and I just still could not get out of the loops.
yeah.
And so that's really like one of the biggest things that brought or that I wanted to work on initially. And it really transformed that relationship dynamic with myself and
Yeah.
my mother. Even though that relationship is still a bit strained, it's evolved in a healthier
Right.
way where I'm healthier.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that lifted off. And then, of course, with my own personal stuff, there was a lot of nervous system work that
Mhm.
I felt got repaired, and I'm able to be a bit more balanced and more regulated, which offered me an opening to notice if there were other things that could support my physical body, like supplement wise.
Yeah.
Um, I felt I began daily practices that were really supportive to me and that I needed at the time. I would say, a highly sensitive person. I am
Yeah.
very aware of my surroundings. Um, and so it's important to me to make sure I'm nourished in a particular way. But then also, it really helped with my mind and being able
Yeah.
to discern what's truth and what's just my mind trying to send me in spaces that aren't helpful, and how I can pause
Yeah.
and come back to the certainty of my truth and my knowing. And that has really significantly helped me in relationships, and the not just outer like friendships or partnerships, but the relationship I have with myself.
Mm.
And that's been really impactful for me personally, but then also as a mother. I've got the three
Yeah.
kids. Navigating parenthood can sometimes be turbulent in the early years. And so having that tool with me has been very supportive to the motherhood journey.
Absolutely. I can see that. I think the way that we relate to ourselves is really dictates success that we have with parenting. And to me, success in parenting is being able to connect appropriately with your child to help see them and guide them instead of guiding them in a way to heal or ourselves or to do what we want or to be very much more that their behavior is somehow need to be reflective of what we require in our life. And I don't believe that children owe us anything. I know for some people that's controversial, but I really feel like we're here to help navigate them, and they're not our therapist, and they're not here to, do the things that we didn't get a chance to do. And the cleaner we are with our own stuff, and the better relationship we have with ourselves, the cleaner we can be with them, which is just incredibly impactful and important, I think, for our society as a whole, and then for the child themselves, right?
Yeah, and giving them the space to be an individual and express what's most correct for them
Oh
versus
yeah,
my idea of what it should be. And that's
yeah.
been so beautiful to be able to see them blossom in that way. I mean, I'm not perfect by any means, but
None of us are. I don't think that's the idea.
right. It's been very, very helpful and impactful. So like what I find interesting just from hearing me share all these bits is that I came into EP with a specific like, oh, I want to heal the mother wound and all that, but then it really, really expanded into these different aspects of my life. So it's not just a one thing. EP really helps in so many areas of your life. And I think that's really important to share because it, it's very expansive in how it can impact you.
Yeah, I love that. That's the idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the primary tenets of this work is that expansion is the natural state of consciousness. That's what consciousness does, is it expands. And this life as human beings sometimes can be contractive, which is contradictory to our natural state. So we come into these unnatural states. We come out of our way of what's the purest form of our expression of our consciousness and what we intended. And so it's really helpful to tune into energies, whether it's EP or something else, that really tunes us back into our natural state so that we can do what we're here to do, what our soul intended to come in, whatever that is, right? Which is tuning into that expansion. Thank you. Love that. So, what would you say to someone who feels called to this work but isn't sure they're intuitive or a healer enough? Because I think that that's something that comes up often, is that there's this idea that you have to be something special to tune into EP, that that's for certain kinds of people, and that people put themselves in a different, well, that's not me, that's someone else. And I think that goes back a little bit to the identity piece that you talked about in your decision making process, is that you had to see yourself as a person who could be, who could access energy, who could work with energy, who could, all those things. So I'm really curious, what would you say to somebody that's maybe on the fence and thinks that this isn't for
I mean,
them?
share my experience was definitely like that because I was like, ah, I don't know about that aspect, but I want to do more healing. And so I just jumped into it. And then it was almost like I closed it off. I segmented it. I was like, I'm not going to become someone who, I'm not going to use it for that. I'm not going to heal other people. That's fine. I segmented it and I was like, I'm just going to do it for healing for myself. And that
Hmm.
felt really good and it got me in the door. But little did I know it was going to, that segmentation was out the window after probably like a month or two because I started to receive information of how it could weave into other parts of my life. And then I wanted others to experience the depth of transformation and healing that I was receiving because it's very impactful and nourishing and so supportive. And so, yeah, it shifted. And I think that's something you mention quite often is that a lot of people do hop in not clear or sure about that aspect of it. And that's okay.
Hmm.
You don't need to. If
Yeah.
you can segment it like I did and hop in and see how things evolve. But even if you don't end up becoming someone who works with others and does healing work in that way, you're still benefiting extensively
Hmm.
for the work that will be done for yourself.
Yeah.
And then it may shift for you too.
Yeah, which is beautiful. I love that piece, right? The shift for oneself. And one of the things that we've focused on in this round of the launch is really talking to people that are practitioners of some kind and like, utilizing EP and adding this into something that's existing for them. And what's really beautiful about that is that if a person has a practice of XYZ, like a chiropractor, we actually had someone join last night who's a chiropractor. And so this is something that will be, it's a two prong. You can segment it in your mind of like, oh, I'm joining for this reason or I'm joining for that reason. But really what's incredible is that regardless, it's all of the things. Like this is something that will really help an individual with their own personal growth no matter what. And then it'll naturally be really useful in an existing practice they have, or maybe you're guided to have a practice and that's not something that you would ever even thought of, which is really fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that. Okay. So, how has this work changed your sense of purpose or what's possible for your life? I just did a little question.
I know. So I would say the biggest, outside of mothering, that really shifted a lot for me. I also own the Atlanta Postpartum Doula agency. And when I started EP at the time, because I had gotten pregnant, I was working solo as a doula, but then I also started doing online business work while I was pregnant and that first year postpartum with Jack.
Hmm.
And my business evolved immensely. And even after that first year to now in 2025, I now have I don't know, I've like what, quadrupled my revenue. I have a team of 19 doulas, and we're serving families, simultaneously each week, month in the Atlanta area, caring for them as they, bring their baby home. And that's huge. I mean, that is my sole purpose. And I did not know, I wasn't aware if I had not jumped into this training. Sure, I would have probably arrived at the same place, but I don't even know. What's the butterfly effect, right? We had been talking
Oh,
about the
yeah.
butterfly effect, and it's totally
Yeah.
that. So like that it brought me closer and faster to the work that I'm meant to be doing.
Yeah.
And each attunement, each training that I took, um, the trust that I've built with myself. We do a lot of work around human design, and I
Yeah.
find it very fascinating. I love it, and I really have grown into it. But it's taught me about my spleen, and growing
Mhm.
a relationship with my spleen has been
Yeah.
huge in business making decisions
Right.
and learning how to trust myself to that, yeah, I'm making the correct business decision. And here I am now in this place. And that's been massive because I want to help people. And that's my sole purpose. And doing it through the business, um, it's happening. And it was
It is.
absolutely facilitated by being an EP practitioner. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I love that so much. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Like that's the whole purpose. And when I first was working with expansion principle energy, I was a doctor of Chinese medicine and I had a private practice and I was sharing the energy in sessions. And I thought that's great. And that's what we would do. And then ultimately, I shifted because I was guided to and I was told to the practitioner piece of it and to focus on that part because that's how we start to have the really quick ripple effect because you all by activating all of you and you who's maybe listening to this, that's where you're really having an enormous effect and a ripple out to our collective and to our society and having individuals being activated most fully to themselves to be more of who they are and to be activated in their mission and their purpose of whatever that is, and it's so beautiful your work. What one of the primary things you said when you answered what first drew you to EP and what your intention was to heal the mother wound, and
Mm.
that's what you do. That's what your work is. And so it's so interesting to me how like a simple intention, something so, that feels so mundane and benign, like, oh yeah, it's just this. I'm just going to do this for me. And it's like, okay, we healed the mother wound within yourself. You worked on that and your relationship with your mother is so different. The way you relate to that is very evolved and healthy. And that then allowed for you to have that magnet to have that beacon out to people like there's another way, and to even prevent there being issues within not just for the mother themselves, but with their child. Because the kind of work that you do helps a woman be fully supported when she's being birthed as a mother, which impacts the woman herself and her own life and being most expressed, but also for the children and for the family unit. And that's what you do. And it's just so exciting. I just love that. I just love it so much. It's just incredible. Talk
That's,
about butterfly effect.
yeah, no kidding. Thank you for reflecting that back to me because I hadn't even made that connection of how I jumped in for that reason. And yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it did it big time because you did it for yourself. You wanted to heal the mother wound for yourself that you had with your own. But then it's like the children, that you're pregnant with, one of, your third child and the impact of that, right? And then the impact on your two older children of just being a mother in a different way and to be more fully self-sourced of like not needing to source your worth or love from your children, which a lot of parents do,
It's what I
and
experienced. Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I experienced. And
Hmm.
I'm, not doing that to my kids. And that's, yeah, it's
That's
amazing.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to go on to do it like with other people, it's like, oh, it's not enough. I did it for me, then I did it for my kids, and then let's do it for other people too. I just love it. It's so amazing. And you're just incredible, Melissa. And I'm really excited for you to be one of our student teachers and to help me this next round and to help facilitate just with your experience and to help facilitate people along their journey as they become EP practitioners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
excited to.
Yeah, so thank you for being here. And so for everyone who's listening, we are open for enrollment. You can go to expansionprinciple institute.com and that has all the information. You can also reach out to us at expansionprinciple@gmail.com. We have things everywhere that you can do. We actually, today is June 20th, 2025. I keep mixing my year. And tomorrow morning on Saturday, we're going to have a EP info session. So anyone who's interested in hopping into that, that's where we can go into the detail of what the training will look like, and you can ask questions and all of those sorts of things. We begin next week, Thursday, June 26th. We're going to have our info, our welcome call. So then we actually aren't going to close the doors until the week after. But I highly encourage you to be part of the welcome call because that's a whole lot of fun. Um, I love you. Thank you, everyone who's watched and listened and all of the things. Thank you so much for being here, Melissa. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Alexis. Bye, everyone.
Bye.